Welcome to Career in Ruins, where this week we're both back in Blighty.
Hey, welcome back, Loza.
Thank you, mate. How are you doing? All right?
I'm all right. I've been very, very jealous of your pictures the last few days, I must
Oh,
admit.
I have had the best 2 weeks traveling around Europe you can ever imagine. We covered Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, Switzerland, and France, and it was all fantastic. We saw lots of heritage, drank lots of wine, had a few beers, went hiking. Didn't get much sleep with a baby in a van, but it was brilliant.
So,
Absolutely fantastic.
so honest appraisal then. 2 week road trip with a baby. Worth it?
Do you know what? So age-wise, absolutely fine. The only downside is that we got a little T5 camper van that we converted, and the problem was as soon as we had to bed, we then wanted to stay up, but then we couldn't go into the van because it was pitch black and there's white noise playing. It's not conducive to a nice, relaxing night in. So we're sort of stuck in the tent that we got a drive-away awning, which was then also full of stuff that we chucked out the van that couldn't be in the van while the van was set up. So the evenings were not that relaxing, but the rest of the holiday very easy because of the age. You just bundle them up and take them around. They don't put up much of a fight while they're sleeping. That side of things was fine, and the sort of limited time you can spend driving, it means that everything's a little bit longer. But all in all, feeling very lucky. It was a lovely trip, and no complaints from my side.
I mean, what I'm hearing there is you spent a not too small a fortune on a brilliant kitted out camper van, only to spend your evenings in a cold tent.
Let's move on, shall we? It did, though. However, I know we always start these with a few things we want to catch up on, and one thing that really got there's a particularly so I did all the driving, so we did around 2,500 miles round trip, and started in Dorset, got the shuttle, went through Belgium, all these other countries. And all I could think about was as you see these amazing landscapes unfolding in front of you, like what is it that's not that I don't get? What is it I don't recognize here? And it wasn't till the return leg going through France, and I don't know if you've done much driving through France, but it's huge open vistas, massive fields, and it just clicked and I was thinking about what is it about the English landscape or the British landscape compared to this that I'm not recognizing. And it clicked that it's the boundaries and the hedgerows and the walls that we have in Britain that make our landscape so unique. And I didn't see anything even vaguely comparable. And I just hadn't appreciated the power of hedgerows and also the tiny little land divisions that we have in the English British landscape and the sort of role of our histories, whether it's the sort of moving people off of land in Scotland, or whether it's the tiny subplots and subdivisions of medieval field systems in Britain, and the sort of you see the field, even if the hedgerows have gone, you see the trees running in a line through a field, demonstrating where those old field boundaries used to be. And it occurred to me, at least in Central Europe compared to Britain, the difference, that huge open landscapes that you see in France and elsewhere, um, compared to driving down my local co-op and just seeing nothing because there's massive towering hedgerows. And when you do see a hill going up the side, there's hedgerows and stone walls in the Lake District or wherever we are, just subdividing and subplotting the landscape up into, in some instances, absolutely ridiculously tiny little plots. And feels so unique. I couldn't put my finger on anywhere else that has such sort of patchwork of sort of division of landscape.
So you were driving around the beautiful continent in your lovely van on these big open roads, baby asleep in the back, partner with you in the car, having the best time of your life, and you were pining after a parliamentary field system.
Yeah, I was. I was. Don't get me wrong. I love the landscape, and there's a reason I wanted to drive is because I wanted to see the landscapes. But there was just something nagging. I was like, "What is it that's the difference here?" Obviously, there's mountains. Obviously, there's different types of forests, but a lot of the forestry was similar. We
Mm.
went to a place in Belgium, just like the Forest of Dean. It was lovely. But I was like, what is it when we're not in these forested landscapes that it is different? And yeah, it's that I never quite appreciated that nuance of the British landscape of division of land.
I tease you, but I remember having a very similar feeling when I was doing some of my PhD research some years ago, and I was in Russia out on the steppe, and we were driving down the highway between Ekaterinburg and Chelyabinsk. And after we passed a few signs saying warning radiation, do not leave your car, we got to our turning, and it was just a dirt track. So we turned down this dirt track, and at that point we were still in forests, in the kind of foresty steppe. And then we came out into the open and drove in a straight line for 6 hours and didn't see a single boundary. And it was the most strange experience to just keep going and going and going and going in this massively open landscape. I was pining for a parliamentary field system.
That's it. And just they just let their animals roam. Swedish cows just go where they want. Like no one's like going, "Oh, keep your cow in your land."
What are the Swedish cows doing in Russia?
I don't know what the Swedish cows were doing in Switzerland either, to be honest. But yeah, the Swiss cows, just with their giant bells, which were mega. By the way, I don't know how they don't have bad necks, but yeah, just yeah, no. Whether it's land, whether it's crop, or whether it's livestock, it's just like yeah, go where you want. What's been on your mind, pal?
Oh, to be honest, I've been very hyper focused on work the last few days.
Hmm.
We talked a bit about it in an earlier pod that things have been a change in at work. And the fruits of my fairly relaxed summer are starting to come to bear, and I'm suddenly
Hmm.
having to do an awful lot of work to make sure I know what the heck I'm teaching next week. So today was a brilliant day. Actually, it's one of the highlights of the year, and regular podcast listeners will have heard me say this at least 3 times already, I suspect. But it was the first day of Freshers Week today,
Hey.
and for possibly the last time, I got to do the archaeology welcome talk. So I got to welcome all of our first year undergrads and tell them about all the exciting things they're going to do over the next 3 years and see their little terrified faces as we were talking through all these complicated things that they were going to have to do, which will actually be quite easy once they get going and get doing it. And it was just lovely to see a whole new batch of keen archaeologists getting ready to start their journey. And it's one of my
Oh,
favourite days of the year.
that's very exciting. More importantly, did you tell them all to listen to Career in Ruins?
I think you know I will. I think you know I will.
You will. You
There's a
will.
there's a whole lecture I give on podcasting.
Yeah, but that's not till later in the year. We
Oh,
need the
you
listeners
want the listeners
now.
now on it?
Come on, mate. You're better than that. Oh, that's lovely. Very exciting. Very exciting. Before we move on to introducing our guest today, I just want one other, any other business. Last week when I got back, I watched, have you seen it yet? 28 Weeks Later. No?
No.
So obviously, those that may not know it, it's the third in many films of the Guy Ritchie films, around sort of this semi-zombie apocalypse, but it's this rage virus. And there's been yeah, the first film I watched back, 28 days, 28 weeks, 28 years, and the first one's so dated. I watched it the other week; it's terrible. But I love zombie films. I love all that stuff. But this is 28 years after the first film took place. Britain is this quarantined island. No one's allowed on, no one's allowed off. And you've got people that aren't infected living in these little silos and sort of communities. And there are a few things that I watched it as an archaeologist that I went, that's pretty cool. Sort of thinking from a prehistoric perspective specifically. So, firstly, there's this little community living on an island, and they can leave on tidal lows, and they go out, and there's this huge herd of deer, like absolutely vast, running like kilometers, a bit like you might see like zebras in the Serengeti or something like that. And I thought Yeah, I can see that. I can see that in prehistoric Britain. Hunter-gatherers just like eyeing up a herd of deer. And they're like, yeah, fancy some dinner. And the other thing, and this isn't a spoiler because I'm not going to go into details of the film, is there's this one character that creates a temple out of skulls and bones, and he creates a henge, and then within the henge, he creates a bone circle. So it's like a timber circle, like a Durrington walls and other ones you might have seen. But you get these posts, massive posts made up of lots of little bones and skulls, and sort of a monument to the dead, whether they were infected or not. Because it's like these people spoke, these people had lives, these people saw things. So I want to commemorate them. And I thought, first of all, love it. I would love to look at that from an archaeological perspective. Second of all, I bloody love to dig that thing in like 500 to 1,000 years' time. Can you imagine?
I was just reflecting as you were telling that very good review of a probably very good film that a sign of our slightly differing aged prodigy children is that you're sitting there of a quiet evening watching 28 Weeks Later, and I'm binging K-pop Demon Hunters, which I must admit is excellent.
Okay, I'll put it on my list. But from just purely from like the composition perspective, yeah, it'd be fascinating to see him plan and how it was dug and how one man made this huge monument over many, many years. But, secondly, the remains that would fall into the ground and whatnot, each one, like whether they were infected or not, would have different sort of causes of death that would be visible. So some of them would have been shot in the head, some of them would have been stabbed in the chest, some of them would have been in one instance, had their heads ripped out of their spine. But which from a sort of anthropological, sort of bioarchaeological perspective, would have been fascinating.
Do we need to ask any of our osteoarchaeological friends what the osteological signatures of a rage virus are?
Oh, now there's a future podcast.
There's a question. Write in with an answer on a
Right,
standard
or just
envelope.
send us a voice note, and we'll fit it into the next.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of my arm musings. Who have we got this week, Derek?
Today's a special one. I'm really excited about today. We are joined by Penny Locke, who is a school liaison, production support on Time Team, Young Archaeology Club leader, and all-round legend who keeps us entertained and looks after us on many a dig. She is fantastic.
And keeps us on the straight and narrow.
Very much so.
Hi, Penny. How are you?
Good, thanks. What an introduction that is. I don't know about keeping you on the straight and narrow. I think you'll be on that.
We left that behind us years ago.
Well, at least looks into spare as we veer off the straight and narrow.
That's probably a little more like it,
yeah. How are you doing? Welcome to Career in Ruins. We're so pleased to have you with us today, and looking forward to the sort of perspective that you're going to bring and the different angles, and it's all about, I'm really looking forward to hearing your journey and your career in ruins and your take on things. I'm sure you've had a few episodes before, but there's a standard structure to the podcast. First of all, we asked you to talk us through your career in ruins, how you got to where you are today, what got you into archaeology, what your interests are, what studies you might be doing or have done. And then we've got our standard questions, which we'll move on to. So first of all, Penny, tell us about your career in ruins.
Initially, it was very boring, I have to say. I've always had a love of history. I was taken to Hampton Court when I was about 6 years old and completely fell in love with the place and became quite obsessed with the Tudors for a long time. But I did what a lot of 16, 17-year-olds do when you leave school and think I'd rather go out fun with my mates rather than do any studying, and I fell into office work and detested it with a passion. Spent many years doing it, and then when I had a family of my own, decided I was going to actually do something about it. And I went to Open University, did a diploma in classical studies and then a Bachelor of Arts, by which time I'd sort of fallen in love with the whole Time Team thing. I went along to a dig in Stoke-on-Trent at the end of the 90s in Burslem. And that was me completely and utterly hooked from then on in. Gradually fell into doing more and more archaeology, hooked up again with Time Team, and a long journey later, here I am. Can hardly believe it.
Fantastic. So talk us through a open university degree is that it's slightly different to a typical degree, isn't it?
It is. It's more sort of home-based study. You have to be really quite structured with yourself. You have to put aside certain time, which I was doing it with 4 young children. It certainly wasn't an easy job to do. But as long as you're prepared to put the work in, the support there is fantastic, and the courses are great. And after I graduated in 2007, and I've actually just gone back, started doing my master's degree with the Open University as well. So
Fantastic.
yes,
Uh,
fingers crossed.
and how long did that degree take you initially?
6 years part-time, the
6 years
first one. Yeah,
part-time, and you were working full-time as well with
I was
and being
working
a full-time
part-time.
mum, part-time and being a full-time mum as well.
Yep, yeah,
C-
absolutely.
Can't imagine how difficult that was.
Mm.
So that classics is a bit different from the Tudors then.
Just a little bit, yes. I mean, I know most archaeologists will say it, Romans. Everybody hates the Romans. I've seen several archaeologists find Roman and throw it over their shoulder because that's not what they want. I shan't mention any names. But I love the Romans. You know, they're everywhere. You're pretty much guaranteed to find them wherever you dig. So, you know, hats off to them.
Penny, just going back to your degree, I've always been fascinated by Open University degrees because I've never tried it. I don't know how is the course structured? How do you fit that in around life?
You're given, I mean, for the masters I've just started, you're given a set number of hours each week they expect you to study. So at the moment, I'm doing about 12 hours through their OU website, but then you get about 8 hours a week to go off and do some independent study. There's a lot more independent study with the masters than there was with the bachelors. And things have changed a lot. When I started in 2002, you had to handwrite your essays and send them in and hope they got there. Whereas by the end of the course, you could do it by email and sit there till 10 to midnight on the day they were due in, which was an awful lot better.
So that love for archaeology and that enthusiasm that drew you to it. You mentioned there that you got the time team bug and you wanted to do bits with them. Presumably, then you didn't just turn up to a dig. We often talk about making things happen for yourself in a career in ruins. Talk us through how you got involved and what advice you might give based on those experiences.
Well, when you say not turning up for a dig, that's exactly what I did in Stoke-on-Trent. I literally rocked up on the site. But the next one I took part in, I'd actually won a place on. And then Tim was forming something called the Time Team Academy. They were giving club winners a chance to go on site and take part in a dig. And it got to the point where you'd go to your second or third one thinking, this is strange, I'm a club winner again. And you'd start recognising faces. And eventually a small team of us were pulled together. And that's what then became the Time Team Academy, which as Time Team finished, took over and did the Time Team Dig Village project in Dunster and Somerset. And we did that for 8 years. Community-based test pitting archaeology. It was a fantastic thing to do.
8 years. That's a little more than the usual 3 days.
Absolutely.
that Time Team would do. How was that kind of structured? I've always been fascinated by Dig Village because it was a little bit before our time in terms of Time Team. And how did that kind of build up and carry on for so many years?
It was based around Mick Aston's work in Shatwick. Apparently Dunster was a village he was looking to take on and do a similar project. So sadly, when he passed, it was picked up by Tim. And we went in 1 or 2 weekends a year, 3 or 4 days. Anyone that wanted to join in could come pay and come and join us for the weekend. And the people in the village wanted to know so much about their history. They were quite happy for us to go up and dig in their back garden. We went in the back of the restaurants and the local pubs. They were all happy to do that. We had Andy was the dendrochronologist going around dating a lot of the houses. And I did a project with the school children, taking them out to look at the houses and the buildings in their own village. And it took a long time to pull it all together, but it was worth the work. And the villagers were lovely. I mean, you thought you got cake at Norton Disney. You want to have seen the cake that was at Dunster.
Sign me up. And but over those 8 years, then presumably you will have learned lots of skills and had opportunities to learn to dabble in different areas. Talk us through the sort of experiences and skills that you've built up.
Well, initially, I suppose I was a bit green. I loved the history. I'd done my degree, but I was still learning the archaeology side of things. So it was more about getting experience and practicing. I mean, test pitting, people think it is an easy option when it comes to archaeology. It's really not. To put the threads together, I think, is a bit more difficult. There were specifics we were trying to find: the cloister, the parts of the priory. Stuart wasn't convinced that where the local said was the centre of the village, that actually was the centre of the village, and it turned out to be absolutely right. He was right. Surprisingly enough, he did put his hand in his pocket several times in the local pub. I will give him that. So it's a learning process. I mean, the villagers enjoyed it so much, they've set up their own archaeology group, and they've continued after we've left. So they've been borrowing geophysical equipment from a university. They've gone out and discovered there's a Roman site down near the shore. So there's quite a lot left in Dunster to think about and to work with. But I think, our time is done. We've done the report, the Dig Village book, which I was privileged to be a researcher on. That the whole thing tells a wonderful story, and it hopefully encourages other areas to do the same thing the correct way.
And would you say those experiences of working with local communities, teaching people to love their local heritage, has fed directly into what you're doing now, the here and now? Because you work at local living museum, you run a local Young Archaeologist Club, you do a lot of schools work, you still continue to do that through time too. How's that shaped what you're doing now? And talk us through a bit more of those two things.
Absolutely, it shaped it. I think the enthusiasm from the villagers was great, but the enthusiasm from the children, we had one child come along to do a test pit, and his life's ambition was to find a bit of clay pipe. It's just a bit of clay, but he was desperate to find a bit, and he did. The look on his face was unbelievable. So it's that sort of thing. It's very easy. If you try to read at children or give them a book, you'll lose them. If they can physically come out and do something, it makes such a difference to how they see it. We'll go to the other end of the scale. My YAC group came along to the time team dig at Horston Hall, Whittington, and we did a wash-up session afterwards. What did you enjoy? And all of them, except one child, loved it. And I said, what was the matter? And he said, it was boring. He said, it was so slow, I was bored, I was fed up. I said, did you enjoy anything about the day? And he'd walked around with Richard K. Morris and heard him talking about the chapel that was in the field. And he said, I loved that. So I said, well, if you don't like archaeology, you could go into historic buildings. And it had never crossed his mind. Yes. So, he didn't like the archaeology, but we found something else he was interested in. So it's just finding that passion that they've got and honing in on it.
Something for everyone.
Absolutely. And let's face it, you've seen me, like my biggest project that I do when I go out, the kids all love, is the Whose Poo Are You project. That never felt. Gut score and toilet habits, the kids are in there.
Is it always Lawrence's?
Well, no, not
I've stopped doing
that.
For people that may not know what Young Archaeologist Club is, could you just give us an overview?
Yes, Young Archaeologist Club are based in York. They're a branch of the Council of British Archaeology, and it's for anybody from the ages of 8 to 16 that are keen on learning about archaeology and history. If you go to the Young Archaeologist Club website and put in your postcode, it brings up your nearest group. And I was based at the Museum of Cannock Chase for 10 years, and sadly that museum is one of the ones that shut in a lot of the cutbacks that are going on. But we've been very lucky, and RAF Museum Midlands have taken us on now. We're based at Cosford Museum, and we've got a waiting list. There's always children want to come along. The site at Attingham were doing tours last weekend, and a couple of the children that came along asked for details, and they've emailed to say they want to join. There's such an enthusiasm about it. All sorts of activities they can do. It's good fun to do.
And presumably it's not just, it doesn't have to necessarily just be the kids that want to join. It can be enthusiasts that are in local areas that maybe don't have a club running that could think about setting one up for themselves.
Absolutely. There's a gentleman called Mark that came along last week. He's just set up a brand new club in Ludlow. A YAC last year were doing a push for after school clubs. There's a lot of schools looking at after school clubs because they have to do wraparound care. Yak is another option for them to do an after-school club and set one up, which I think has been, pretty successful. So the more clubs we can get up and going, obviously the more children will have access to them. So any volunteers or anyone that's even thinking about it, please look it up and look further into it.
It's hugely valuable and sounds hugely rewarding. Your imagination and your engagement levels are fantastic, Penny, and it's always great to see you with the nippers on site and leading them, and like a train of enthusiastic little archaeologists to be.
I do feel a bit like the Pied Piper on occasions. Yeah.
It's good. And one of my highlights, we've got a time team WhatsApp group which people just share what they're up to. It's it's quite a nice distraction on a day to day. And you could see anyone from John in Orkney to Derek in Greece or whatever it might be. But often Penny will put a picture of her dressed up as a schoolmistress from the Victorian era.
Where's this going, Lawrence?
I don't know. I don't know.
With Dan Snow.
I did the history hit with Dan Snow as a schoolmistress. That raised a few eyebrows.
Talk us through this stuff, Penny. It's not a normal day in the office for you, is it?
Yeah, working in a living museum, you dress up in character. You're in costume all the time. We're not first person in the museum. I've worked in first person previously, which is really quite hard, to be honest. But it enables us to tell the history and the story of the site and the area that we're based in. And it's good fun to do. It is good fun to do.
Which museum is it again?
It's Bliss Hill Museum, part of the Ironbridge Gorge Museums Trust. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, absolutely. And birth of the Industrial Revolution. So
fond memories
there's an awful
of
lot
it.
of history.
So
really?
you are a UNESCO World Heritage, Penny.
What can I say? I'm still waiting for my personal certificate to come through, but yes.
Before we move on to the next part of the sort of set questions on the podcast, and can edit this out if you're not happy to talk about it, but just going back a bit in terms of studies, and you mentioned you're starting your masters now. And we've had talks over the last couple of years. You've been sort of thinking, mulling it over, and you just. I hope you don't mind me saying you weren't sure whether you'd be up to it or it was right for you. And I think there will be a number of people that are of similar age to yourself that will always question, even if they haven't done a degree like yourself in the past, that question whether they could do it. And I think it will be hugely empowering to people to hear from yourself in terms of how you got to where you are with going for it and how you found that jump and what reservations you might have had and how you're feeling about it now.
Yeah, it has been quite a journey making the decision. It's something I've thought about doing for quite a long time and kept putting off and putting off. But talking to people like yourself and others, the general consensus was if you don't try, you'll never know. And I'm glad I've made that jump. Yes, I'm only a few weeks in. Yes, it's quite a heavy workload, but I am enjoying going back to studying again. It's not going to be easy, but I'm pushing myself. And I think you have to do that throughout life. In whatever you're doing, it's so easy to sit back and say, I wish I had. Don't be like that. If you don't try, you won't know. If you're even thinking about looking into it further, it's very rewarding, and it's surprising what you do know when you push yourself. And that thirst for learning, it's what stops the grey souse from rotting, isn't it? You're supposed to learn new facts every day, and I'm certainly doing that. And within the first 3 weeks, I've already learned a couple of things that have surprised me. So I'm really glad I took that jump. So thank you for all the encouragement.
So what surprised you over the first few weeks?
Oh, various things I've been reading, things I've not thought about. We're looking at the different aspects of historical research, the economic, the social side of research. It's just a few things that I've read, and I've just thought, I wouldn't have thought of that. But it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Oh, that's great, Penny. So moving on to our next question then. You've done lots of amazing things, and it's really nice to hear about it, and I'm learning lots tonight. But I'd love to know, is there a specific aspect of your career in ruins that you're particularly proud of?
Oh, it makes my day. I used to go into schools doing workshops, And one highlight for me was when teachers say, we've got a group of children, we've got a couple here that might not engage, or there's a child that's mute, and do you mind if they stay in the lesson? Of course I don't. And I was in a school doing a workshop around the Maya, and it's a quite physical. They did a Maya dance session, and we did pottery making, and we did Maya maths. And this child just very quietly sat in the corner and was obviously observing what was going on. And at the end of the day, he came over, pulled on my arm, and he presented me with a picture he'd drawn of a Maya pot with all the drawings on. It was beautifully coloured in, and actually brought me to tears. And he gave me a big hug, and I've still got that on my office wall. It's when you can, children will come and say, I thought a museum was going to be boring, but it's been great. I've enjoyed it. It's that inspiring side. It's pushing that spark and getting that bit of passion out. And there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. And that's why I keep working with children, as irritating as they can be and as annoying as they can be at times. But once you've got that spark in them, you've done it. So yeah, that for me was a highlight.
So do you have a hugely diverse range? I don't think we touched necessarily on your school's work. So you're going into schools and delivering school like different themed heritage or history sort of projects and initiatives. And where do you get your inspiration from for the classes? Like Mayan dancing?
Maya's, funny enough, Maya's a subject that's come into the school curriculum. And I've been out there, been to Mexico twice and studied some of the Maya things out there. I've been really lucky. I've gone to Mexico and been in all the museums. I've done the Day of the Dead celebration out there. I've been to Cobra and Chichen Itza and Teotihuacan so I've been to these places, and I try and pick up as much as I can to put them into the things I do. Victorians I've been doing since 2008. I can do World War II. There's various time periods that I can go in and do days and activities around. It's good fun to do.
Is there when you come up with these themes, whether it's World War II, obviously with the Mayan bits you mentioned there, it's engaging, it's interactive, and is that the trick? You don't want to be putting up slides and PowerPoints and talking at little kids. You want to engage them. Wait till they get to university and see Derek to do that stuff. But I guess
Death by PowerPoint with Derek.
You know it is.
Oh, you've been in that one too, have you?
Yeah.
That's everyone.
But what's the key? It's about keeping it as engaging as possible, presumably.
Short, sharp lessons. 20 minutes. No child will sit longer than 20 minutes. So 20 minutes talking, and then they've got to be doing something. And then 20 minutes you can go back to talking, discussing what they've done and do something else. It's short bursts. You can't expect a lot of children nowadays to sit for longer than 20, 30 minutes maximum.
Children or us?
Well, you two, definitely.
TikTok's 30 seconds.
It's making it engaging. It's making sure, one child might like doing art, one child doesn't like art but likes to make things, pottery or whatever, whereas another child prefers to do maths. It's trying to make sure there's something there for all of them.
Yeah, that's great advice. Oh, that's a really good thing to be proud of, and yeah, I can completely understand that. What about envy then, Penny? What have you seen in terms of digs or finds or research? Who or what are you envious of?
We went to Egypt a few years back, and I'd love to go one of the tours with Chris Norton around Egypt and see all the bits the public can't get to. I'd love to do that. And then, of course, one of our lovely detectorist friends has got the opportunity to go out there on a dig next year, and I'm so jealous. So yeah, anything, Egyptian, Greek, anything that's, a bit different. Yeah.
Great, Derek. You hear that? Yeah, that's fair. That's good. I mean, one of the reasons I'm an archaeologist is because at college we went to Egypt and we spent a week just doing the standard tours, and I just fell in love with the stuff. And yeah, the idea of going to see, now that I can properly understand what it is I'm looking at, like the standard stuff's great for sparking the imagination and the interest. But now I want to get the detail. I want to see the sort of the stuff that people don't normally see.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? And we went inside the Great Pyramid, and I did a very quick in and out because there was that many people trying to get up and down the staircase inside. It's so claustrophobic in there. So I'd love to go in when there's nobody about.
Yeah.
It's just going really early or really late when there's nobody else about. It's the same with Rome. Get up really, really early in Rome and get out there before half five in the morning before the public go out. And it's an incredible place.
I don't know if you've got the same problem with this with Derek though. When I go to if in that situation, I just spend the whole time thinking about how I can make 3D models of everything. And I'd waste half an hour just taking hundreds of photos, and then everyone's there.
I don't do that.
Definitely haven't made the most of this situation.
To be honest, I can't go near the Colosseum anymore without wondering how they got the sharks in and how they kept water in.
Oh, but did they?
Well, if you watched Gladiator 2, then they definitely did.
The Colosseum, for me, looking at it, is a stunning building. I waited a long time to see that. But it's when you go out where they've rebuilt the stage, where they do the performance, and you walk out on the stage and see the scale of it from the bottom up. It's still incredible. Stunning building.
Who's Romans? They did all right.
They did okay. What did the Romans ever do for us?
Oh, so, well, I wonder if Romans will come into the next bit. But as you may or may not know, Lawrence and I have spent years perfecting our working time machine, which we give all of our guests a return ticket to somewhere in the past. Rules are fluid. Laws of physics are flexible.
As long as we don't break the space-time continuum, whatever the rules are,
But where would you like to go and why, Penny?
That's really difficult. I've still got a passion for the Tudors. Do you know, I would possibly like to go to Herculaneum because everyone goes to Pompeii and it's stunning. But you go to Herculaneum and you get an idea of the depth of everything that landed on it. And there's such a small proportion that's been excavated because the town is now above it. I'd love to go back and see what else is underneath where the town is now.
Will we need to give you a volcano-proof pod to kind of put around yourself?
No, I'd go a couple of weeks beforehand.
Okay, fair enough.
I wouldn't go in a time of danger. But just to see the size and the scale of what is there, because they don't really know. I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah. And also just the idea, because you'd get a snapshot, so you'd see a plan of Herculaneum, and then you can go to the archaeology, and there'll be like buildings that you look at. Oh, those buildings weren't there when I went back in the time machine, so they must predate.
It would be amazing.
Shrinking and growing.
The other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to have time binoculars. You know, when you put binoculars up to your eyes and you adjust the vision in the middle, well, instead of adjusting the vision, put your face, put a year in there. So you're standing now, and then you can put a year in and lift them up, and you'd see it as it was.
Oh, MG, that's
amazing. So now we give people a choice. Do you want a ticket or do you want a set of time binoculars? And what would you look at?
Sorry, have I started something there?
Yeah.
At the moment, I'd look back at my garden lawn before the summer and look at how green it was.
Ours is really green. It's growing loads because we've had so much rain. It's a bit of a pain.
I think I'd go out into the field just behind my house over there and see what's in that little bit of the field where we were digging a hole.
Oh yeah! Spoiler! No spoilers. Stay tuned to find out more. Oh, that was fantastic. Penny, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure to hear your career in ruins, to hear a different approach, a different narrative, a different theme that I don't think we've touched on at all in the last 4 or 5 years. So a really valuable addition to the Career in Ruins catalogue.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. And if anyone wants to go out and set up a Yak group, I presume they can go to the CBA website and have a look at that, Penny.
There is a Yak website dedicated just to Yak. Yeah, so, absolutely.
So go and check that out if you're thinking of setting up a group, or if you've got wayward, kids that you want to send to a club to do something, look for Yak.
They can be straggly.
Yeah. We don't mind.
It's been a long day.
Now, I have got a present for you two when I next see you. I did manage to find socks with Korea in ruins written on them.
What?
So I've
Oh,
bought you a
yes.
pair of socks each. So next
What?
time we meet, I will give you your Korea in ruins socks.
Oh,
Oh,
that's nice.
that's
Um,
peak merch.
that is.
Hey.
Speaking of presents, have you got anything to say to me, Derek?
When? What is it? It's not today, is it? No. When's your birthday? It's not today. It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Oh, we should have sung to you.
You can't pull that.
Hey, now make a wish.
I don't know. Say
I
happy
wish
birthday
Derek
to
would
Joe,
wish me a happy birthday
then say
tomorrow.
happy birthday to Lawrence on his birthday. You're not the Queen. You don't get two.
Oh, do you want to meet up for a drink tomorrow, mate? I'm really busy.
Oh,
Pretty sure I said, yeah, sure, mate.
I don't know. I might be able to fit you in at 2:00.
Yaw. Oh, while Lawrence licks his wounds, let's just say thank you to all of our patrons and supporters and listeners for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. And as my dogs start barking in the background, we thoroughly enjoy watching the old listener stats popping up. So please do keep tuning in. It gives us a lovely, nice buzz when we see that people are listening.